Hello, this is Dan Paulson. I am reaching out to you today because I am going to try something new. I'm going to try to do some more video and connect with you in a little bit different way. I'm going to use this time to talk about different issues, situations, or experiences I have or have had, and also share some knowledge and try to help you out as you navigate your way through business improvement or whatever you might be listening along for. So, as part of this, today I'm sharing an experience I had recently talking with a colleague of mine. He was asking me about the book that you might be familiar with because I've been talking about it a lot lately, which is Escape the Owner's Trap. And some of the major differences that I utilize when I'm creating the MAAX system or the MAAX framework that other programs or other systems do not focus on, which is the people first approach versus the systems first approach. And what I mean by that is when you look at most other systems or frameworks, they really start talking about how you put all these workflows in place, put dashboards in, put SOPs in. So again, it's very structured from that point with the idea that as you put that structure in place, the people will eventually come along. It has been my experience, though, that it's actually the opposite that occurs. So thinking of human behavior and how we interact whenever change takes place is something that we often struggle with. There's a lot of pushback, especially if we don't understand why that change is happening, and that leads to greater issues and often wasted time and wasted money putting in place systems that never are fully integrated. So the idea behind the MAAX system is actually to flip the script on that. And when I was talking with my colleague the other day, he was saying, well, aren't systems necessary in order to really build the behaviors that you're talking about? And my thought is no, because we often already have certain systems in place in our organizations. They're just not well documented or thought out in a way to be able to teach that to others. Or even worse yet, when under stress, how do we act or react? And what I have learned is when you put people in a pressure cooker, so let's say there's a fire to put out in the company, there is some problem going on, or there is pressure from clients, we often look to take the shortcut or the easiest route to fix the problem. What happens then is as we work to fix that problem, we might create other problems along the way. So this is where the system breaks down because we haven't developed the discipline or the habits to keep that process or that workflow in place, hold the integrity, because again, we haven't dealt with the most common element, which is people. The idea behind the MAAX system is to really work on building the habits first, and then as we're building the habits, implement the systems along the way. So it's not completely true that all we do is we focus on habits and culture. What we do, though, is we take certain habits and certain systems and try to match them up in a process that gradually ramps up the systems as we go along. So taking something as simple as meetings, for example. I've been talking a lot about meetings today. If you see some of my other videos or some of my other posts, talk about how most meetings are a complete waste of time because they lack structure, they lack follow through, and that's often where breakdowns lead because now meetings turn into from minutes into hours and possibly never into any sort of resolution at all. I remember working for corporate America where we would just continue to schedule meetings, to have more meetings, to schedule more meetings with no particular outcome. Often that outcome was kicked to the next meeting, and then again, go down the rabbit hole and you break into more issues going on and you talk about those issues, but you never actually come to any resolution. So the idea with what we kind of do early on in the MAAX system is implement some basic meeting structures that follow a routine, follow a specific structure where people are utilizing an agenda, an outcome, and making sure that the people that are in that meeting are the people that are supposed to be in that meeting. So they have vested interest in, again, the outcome of the meeting and also implementing anything that comes from that. It's really about putting in place the behaviors and the structure first, and this is where it starts. Something as simple as a meeting, you think, well, that shouldn't be a big problem. However, when you try to implement, for example, a daily huddle or a daily touch base, that can be an extremely productive time if that meeting is kept to no more than 10 to 15 minutes. What I often find is that meeting turns from 10 to 15 minutes into several minutes, decades. It almost seems like it goes on forever. But no, in all seriousness, that meeting often turns from 15 minutes into an hour, and multiple subjects are talked about, but nothing's ever really resolved on it. So the idea behind building that discipline back in is making sure that we're focused on what we need to concentrate on for that day. And when I work with clients, the first system we're implementing is, how does that daily structure look? What are we trying to accomplish in that meeting that is going to help the organization, help our people be more successful, and make sure we're proactively looking at what's ahead in our day, and in some cases early on in our week, to make sure we're staying on target and looking for those problems before they ever pop up. That in itself is a little bit different shift from where others come in, where you implement the process first and then you expect people to follow the process. What I've experienced is, again, that process breaks down the moment something comes along that's unexpected. And then we start taking those shortcuts. And the shortcuts are where the problems arise. Maybe not in the beginning, maybe the first shortcut allows you to resolve that issue, but it might also create two other issues along the way. So the idea here, again, is really look at the behavior, understand how human interaction works, how human discipline works, where that discipline breaks down, and how do we resolve that first. What I have found is once you do that, it then becomes easier to implement change because you've already built the discipline in place for people to accomplish the goals that they're trying to do. It also allows me that when it is time to implement the different dashboards or different frameworks, that people are more willing to absorb it, more willing to implement it, and there's less pushback along the way because we've already taught them certain skills that make that process much easier. So it's putting the cart where it belongs, which is behind the horse, not before the horse. And it's really about implementing those systems and processes in a way that's going to get the best results overall, allow you to put the work where it needs to go, with the people it needs to go with, and making sure that they're able to deliver on that process. If you have any questions about this, please feel free to contact me. I would love to explain more. Also, if you would like to learn on your own, I recommend you get the book Escape the Owner's Trap. It is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, any other place you can think of. You can get it electronically, and you can get hard copies as well. Would love to talk to you more, and you can reach out to me at Dan Paulson Let's Go or themaaxsystem.com, and would be happy to explain more of how this all will make your company better, more productive, and more efficient along the way. Thanks again.